So how are you?
Thank you. I'm very well, very well. Actually, I'm happy to have managed many things, to succeed in quite a lot of things. And on the other hand, I'm still working upon completing this issue. I will describe soon what I mean. So there is a kind of expectation and waiting for further results,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm fine. I'm really fine, thanks.
Okay, good. Did you enjoy the Naranjo event or conference?
Yes. Very, very much so. I will describe a little, but how are you, Joshua?
Very well.
Very well?
Very well. I'm enjoying work at the moment and enjoying leisure time at the moment, and doing some interesting research in my own time about the emotion of wonder and the experience of wonder and its benefits, and how we can create more moments of feeling that sense of deeper connection with the world around us. We can create more of those moments instead of waiting for when I climb up a mountain or when I look into the eyes of a newborn baby. Instead of waiting for those, we can actually consciously create more of those moments in our life. And by doing that, we greatly enrich our lives and our experience of life. So I am very much enjoying exploring that. And it's lovely to see you and speak to you.
Thank you. So I feel the same. And now I'm curious, is there a special technique for that?
Well, there's a few different things. One is simply being more mindful. So in stopping and just noticing what's there in the moment already. So finding a moment where you just stop and you just be, and you just notice all the things that are going on in the reality around you that beforehand you didn't notice, and inside you as well. The emotions, the lights, the sounds, etc. And then savoring that, consciously savoring the moment by tuning in to the tastes and the sounds. And then also intellectually, you can start to connect that to the bigger picture. So if you're drinking something, like I've got a cup of coffee here, you can consciously think about the coffee came from coffee beans, which came from the ground, which came from, and you start to realize that in this cup that I'm drinking, there's so many elements from out there in the world, in the universe, and you can start to make something very ordinary, you can perceive it as something quite extraordinary. And then also, I love the idea of synchronicities and serendipitous moments, and I think you can create more of those as well by having a focus of attention. And when you put your attention on that thing for a month, let's say I think this month I'm going to pay attention to lighthouses. I'm just making one up, but having like a theme for the month. And then, so for that month, you have lighthouses as your theme, and then you start to see it everywhere. And it's not, it's not magic. It's that your focus of attention is there. So you start to see more lighthouses, but it doesn't matter whether it's magic or not. But what it does is it starts to give you those feelings of, wow, synchronicity, serendipity, starts to give you that little boost of wonder more regularly. So that's a few ways you can do it, but I'm sure there's many more. That's what I'm researching at the moment.
This second word after synchronicity, this was not in my consciousness. How do you call the other one?
Serendipity.
Serendipity. Synonymous to?
Well, it's like a happy coincidence.
Uh-huh.
So I really really need a bunch of mint to cook with, and I walk out of the house and someone has left a bunch of mint on my doorstep.
Okay. Okay.
It's unlikely to happen, but that's one thing that would be very serendipitous. Or if you meet someone who you think is going to be the love of your life, but then you're on separate trains and you're pulling apart and you think you're never going to see them again, but then you happen to see them years later in another situation at a party. That would be very serendipitous.
I see.
Okay. Legend about someone called Serendip, but I can't remember the legend. I need to research it.
I see. Okay, thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so there was in 1 month there was this theme of lighthouses.
Not yet, but
Not
one
yet.
day. But I do that. There's a group of us, and we do always have a different theme each month.
Yes. Yes.
There's other ways you can do that, but it's just about starting to notice the small moments of everyday life that are actually quite magical and interesting. But you do need to come out of your everyday worries more and start to be a bit more playful about where you focus your attention.
Yeah. Is the community growing?
Well, it's a nice group of us, but it's not growing massively.
Okay, but it's a nice group.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I will do that theming thing every month, having a different theme. I will do that right up until the end of my life, I'm sure, because it's just my life so much. Yeah, I enjoy it. It's so much fun. You learn so much more. You have many more interesting moments. You do new things. You get new music. I love it.
All right. And how about the Enneagram? Did you do anything in the last months with it, or did you leave it aside for the time?
Well, the Enneagram, it was such a core passion of mine from when I was 19 to about 33 or something. And I was reading endless books about it. And I've still got all the books on my bookshelf. And I still always instinctively type people when I chat to them. And I, especially since working with you or talking with you and finding more out about the tri-types, that's been really valuable to start to give me that more nuanced understanding of people's types, and realize more about my own type as well. But in terms of the Enneagram, I'm not really consciously spending time on it anymore. I'm not reading that much about it. I'm not researching much about it. It's just kind of in the background as something that I love.
But presumably it's kind of working in the background of your experience of your everyday life. I think
that's how it feels. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you look at the video with Social 9?
I did. That was great. It was great to get an insight into some of the things that you were exploring at what was it, a conference? Was it a retreat?
Well, it was a kind of conference. Naranjo called it once a conference, but also you can call it a seminar or a workshop. So it was. It consisted in 2 parts: more theoretical part, just talking about the prominent examples which were chosen for the 27 subtypes. Mm-hmm. But then also the bigger part was experiential part, where we worked really with our body and feelings, incorporating the subtypes. So this was the most wonderful. And sometimes when I looked once more at the videos which I made, for example, with this woman, the social nine, but I also made two videos with Germans,
Okay.
a 1 and a 3. And if I look at it after this week, I just have tears in my eyes, because it was so emotional that when I hear them, I'm really in it.
Oh,
yes. And we could see in the last evening, we could see the whole scene. The groups were presenting their let's say situations, but it was impossible to really catch it, to memorize it, to recognize what is exactly being done. In some parts, for example, by the ones, the Enya type 1, it was possible exactly to see what they were doing, because the ones were very one-ish. They did first, I think, preservation, then they did the social, and then they showed the sexual.
Yeah.
So they had the time, 1 minute and a half for one scene. It was a very short scene. So the next 1.5 minutes, and the third one. So altogether, there were only 5 minutes to show it.
And when you say their scene, was it that they were doing a short talk?
A theater.
Theater, okay, great.
Theater. There was a real theatrical arrangement. It was like Gestalt therapy. It was showing a situation of a prominent person who was in hell, or in the purgatory, and this was dramatically performed.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
you see, some scenes were even performed without any word. So the words were not important, but of course, mostly there were some words in between. And with the group of 1, it was really very clear, because 1 is clear, and you could differentiate between the subtypes. You could see what they are trying to show. Okay, but then all the other groups were doing in a very big room. It was a huge room. We as observants were sitting around, and in the middle there was the group which was performing. And so, because they were only 5 minutes to show it, because 9 groups showing the hell and then showing the purgatory, altogether it was 2.5 hours. And that's why it had to be very short. Yeah. And so all the other groups were performing all 3 subtypes simultaneously. No? So that's why if you looked in the room, you couldn't really recognize who is what and what is the scene, because it was all mixed up. Yeah, this was a pity. This was a pity.
Oh, I quite like the idea of it. I quite like the idea of just having so many things to look at all at once. Maybe
yes, but you can't hold it. You can't remember it. Yes, because it's not possible. It is too much action and with the very different scenes and motives. Okay, so this was also filmed.
Yeah.
But we are not sure if we'll get the whole film. If we do, if we can buy it, then it would be fantastic. So then you can really look at all the scenes and recognize what was the force. How did they feel, the people in the types in the hell and in the purgatory. Yeah. But so I tried to find people who are ready to talk about it with me. And I succeeded until now in 3 cases.
Yeah.
Yes. So now I'm still looking for further people who will share their experiences in the group. And the groups were in 9 different houses. So we didn't know what the others are doing. Me as 5, I knew exactly what was the whole process, but maybe it was too bad that we didn't try to talk about it the day after and try to get the impressions. It was a very emotional energy in all the group. We are over 200 people participating, and nobody was thinking about consequences, about about logic and so on. But so this is the situation. I was very, very happy with the whole conference, because the things I experienced were just to the point. It was just nearly like a fulfilling the missing part of experiencing the 5 subtypes, bodily experiencing them,
Yeah.
So I would say now I really not only understand them, but I feel them.
Yeah.
And so
Brilliant.
So of course I would like to be able to do it with the other types, and through the talks with the people, it becomes really possible to grasp, to feel.
When people share it on the videos.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So this is the seminar. Of course, Naranjo could not be there, only on the screen.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, we were satisfied. We saw that was the best that could be done in this situation.
Yes. So I'm interested in, you said about the Enneagram and how this felt like the missing piece, and now you feel like you feel it, whereas before you knew about it. Did you know that before? Did you know that there was a missing piece? Was it only when you went to this seminar that you realized, oh, now I see that there was something missing, or I can.
Well, I would say I had some feeling of the type and subtypes, but the experience was so deep that for the first time, I could feel it in my bones, you know. So this was really bringing the whole issue really to the ground. It was just a deeper incorporating this knowledge. So it is not like yes or no, it's the intensity.
Yeah. How many other fives were there in your group?
We're something like 20, 22, 23. Like
and what was that like, to be surrounded by other fives?
Yes. Well, interesting. Interesting. Yes, of course, I could see more clear the difference between the subtypes. And I also saw that there are some differences with the conscious, well, let's say the maturity of the soul. For example, we had one of our how do you call them, promise was how do you call the Kafka, you know Kafka, yes?
Yeah.
So
I remember you talking about Kafka in the video.
Okay. So for example, Kafka was a self-preservation 5. We had in my opinion, we had one participant who looked like Kafka and really was vibrating the energy of Kafka, but not the mature one, as he was also as a little younger. I think he was in his 20s. And he, you know, if you know the problem of a 5, that is the drawn back, drawn inside. Okay. And although he is working in this issue and he's really in the matter. Yeah, he belongs to us. No? Still, you could see the energy drawn back, and so you could see. Okay, I can see really the difficulty of a 5, of a self-preservation 5, even a kind of observing the hell. Yes, and I think it was for him even difficult to perform the purgatory, because for that you need really be conscious of your hell. So purgatory means to be conscious of your hell.
Okay.
The hell means not being conscious that you are in hell. Okay. Of course, this is oversimplification, but it has something to do with this. And so for me, these participants were mostly very conscious people. There were some which were in the 70s, for example. I myself, I'm 57, but there were people in the 60s, in the 70s, maybe approximately 80. And you could see the maturity. You could see that they were not fixated, but they could perform it. And by others, you could sometimes see, okay, this is this is easy to observe, and then you could see, okay, this is actually also a very good lecture. No? No? Yes.
Sounds like a very rich learning experience. Oh, there's Adam. Sorry. It's just
oh, no problem. But he's fleeting, yeah?
Yeah, he's just on his way out.
Okay.
Door. Yeah, it sounds like a very fascinating human experience to have that performance of the types, but in hell and purgatory, and it does sound highly impactful and very enlightening. I'm glad you went and you got a lot from it.
Yeah. Yes, and of course there was also a little bit of heaven, or I call it actually paradise. This was different in the different groups. By some types, they were working quite a lot with the paradise. We had also very interesting exercise with it or experience, but not differentiated in the subtypes. So it was important to differentiate how is the way of one subtype through the stages. For example, self-preservation 5, being in the hell. What does it mean? How does it feel like? Yes. And then being in the purgatory. How does it feel like? But then the paradise was not so important to see it in the different types, because this is really a beautiful, relaxed, overwhelming experience. So it doesn't matter if you're self-preservation or sexual or anything. No? And so we did it like this, and for me it was also fantastic, where I could really see what it means not to be fixated and not to fight with it, because in the hell you are fixated, and in the purgatory you are fighting with your fixation. Yes, but in paradise you are just yourself, and it feels different because all the three centers are united. They are flowing together. You are not one-sided, and you are free.
Yeah. The journey from integration, when in paradise, everything seems to connect and seems more on a level with itself. Whereas the further down you go towards hell, there's that fixation and everything starts to separate. So I imagine that makes sense, that the subtypes are more clearly defined.
Yes.
Whereas when you're in paradise, then so there's more of an integration, more of a connection.
Well, I remember one scene was very interesting in paradise. We walked around and we should look at one another with love and compassion and non-attachment. And so we walked around, and I stood in front of one woman, and we looked in our eyes, and we stood there maybe for 10 or 15 minutes, looking at each other, doing nothing. And it was so overwhelming. just felt this moment need not cease. This is a moment where the time doesn't mean anything. So we could stand there for hours. It would be fulfilling, doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, so the paradise does not depend on what you do, not in the least. So it just doesn't matter. But you are there. No?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know it, of course.
Well, it's a wonderful reminder and a wonderful way of describing it. I remember reading an Eckhart Tolle book, and he talks about how when he had his realization, he just sat on a park bench for a long time, for a few years, and he didn't need anything. He was, just being in the moment, being present. What was paradise.
Yes.
It's a great reminder for us to. It's always there. It's free. It's available to us at any moment.
Right. Right.
That's a very powerful. Sounds like a very powerful moment of the workshop, the seminar, to give you the space to connect to someone that way.
A kind of culmination. Do you say culmination?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yes. But then, of course, also this performing, I think is nearly a little bit of paradise, because if you perform the fixation and the fight with the fixation inwardly, you are free. No? There was only one moment with me that this was seen in the Purgatory, which was so physically so strong that I nearly had a fear that something could happen. No? I was not the most important person in this scene. There was another one, an Italian guy, who was very, very strong and very aggressive. He should play something where he tries to show his aggression and his determination, but he was so determined, and that there was really kind of danger that there will be some injured people in our group. So for me, it looked a little bit like uncontrollable, yeah. But okay, but everything went okay. But still, this was also an interesting thing to see how forceful, yeah. Do we say force?
Yeah, forceful.
A 5, self-preservation 5 in this case, can be, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then interesting thing, this Indian woman had said it also in the video which you looked, that as they looked at the 5s in this big performance evening, they had the feeling we were the 5s were the most emotional people. So this was very interesting, because I also heard it from another woman. They expected the fives to be pretty boring, or at least not expressive, because they are fives and they have to show that the issues of five. But it was on the contrary. Yeah, this, for example, this deep depression of the self-preservation five was so sad that this another woman cried. She was weeping. And I remember myself staying there. We had some paintings on the face, pretty sad. And feeling that sadness, this was the hell, of course. It was magic. It was like being in a magical scene, which has nothing to do with normal everyday life. Really a magical room. And I think if the professional actors and so on, directors would look at it, they would think these are really professional actors, also first class. I'm sure.
Yeah, sure.
And we are just, me, myself, I have never performed anything. But
it shows that it's good acting is about tapping into who we really are, not about faking something.
Yes. Finding the connection to this issue, to this real soul difficulty, finding it in itself. And then yes, this was, of course, all the other groups, you could feel the energy in the room.
I liked what you said about when you are performing the fixation, then you are actually free. You said something like that. It's very like to actually not hide away from the fixation, but feel it, but in a performing kind of way. It's quite liberating.
Right. Yes.
That's a useful way to look at it. And I've had the experience before when I've really let myself feel the underlying feeling and say the underlying things that are in my head, even if it's negative. Once you do that in a way that you're kind of almost enjoying it, almost enjoying the expression of it, it's a very cathartic and liberating thing.
Yes, exactly. It is like trying to express, to put outside an important reality of the soul.
Yeah, I like that.
And while doing this, there is a kind of non-identification, synchronically to the performance. So there is a very emotional performance. It's intense, and at the same time there is some identity which is completely free of it, and a kind, as you said, a kind of enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yes, a kind. I would say it's a kind of joy of this manifestation.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's the hell or if it's purgatory.
There's something else watching that's enjoying the reality in front of it, or the play, the performance, but there's something behind that's not caught up in it. It's just observing it.
And of course, the preparatory work was very important and very useful for it. So we had nearly a week time, and we were being coached coached by very good people, very good coaches, and there was always the work with the body, some exercises, some and so we just could always come in the body and in the feelings, and then from this stand then begin the real work, and that's why it was so authentic, no?
Yeah.
Right.
Sounds good.
I don't know how much time do you have. I promise to be ready at 8, no? So 1 hour. I don't know how is with you. Is it okay when we make?
Yeah, whenever. It's just nice to connect up. It is fine. We can talk for a bit longer, or we can finish now. I do not mind at all.
No, but maybe there is something more that you would like to share before we finish this whole theme.
It's interesting about the reflection on the Enneagram and how it's gone in the background of my life. Because when you're talking about the purgatory and the hell and the paradise, I made that sequence of videos, and I talked about it as when you're down at the bottom and you're at your worst and you're the most, I don't know if I use the word fixated, but it's like disintegrated, and then when you're most integrated and you're in that level. And I found that very enjoyable to act out, and I wonder, even if it's just something for me to explore by myself, but how I could use more of that in my own personal development and in my own work, is that acting out of different aspects of our human experience, whether that's negative or positive, and just really exploring what it's like to feel that. Because I think it can help us connect to humanity on a broader level.
Yeah.
I guess the reason that came up is just because it's nice to have the reminder about the Enneagram and its power. I don't read that many books anymore about it. I don't watch that much about it, but I think it's got a hugely important role in helping us understand the nature of our being. And so I'm glad we've had this connect up, because it's reminded me.
Yes, and of course every one of us is unique. So you will never find two people who do it in exactly the same way. No? For example, at the moment you are not reading actually. Yeah, you are doing other things. And this is your life. This is your uniqueness. No? I do, for example, or I'm doing many things, but it always changes. So a few years ago, I wouldn't have known what I will be doing now. And now I have, of course, no idea how it will be in a few years. But the life brings this with it. So it decides, no? And then we think sometimes, I have decided. Well, in a way, yes, but actually it was life.
That's a good point.
Which decided. No?
Yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, I enjoyed your videos very much, especially the 4.
Well, that was probably the easiest for me, seeing as that's my main type.
Yes, this was easy, but it was also the most funny. So I remember I had belly aches, really.
Oh, that's nice feedback.
From laughing, yes. but also the other ones were excellent. So yes, well, I guess we'll have a new talk in some time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and it's lovely to hear about your experience at Naranjo's and at the seminar. And yeah, just keep me posted if any other videos come up or any other things. I don't always read them or I don't always listen to them straight away, but they get stored, and I'm always happy to keep connected with all of that stuff. So I appreciate it if you send anything over.
Beautiful. Well, every now and then I just think about my friend in England. And then I think, oh, maybe I should send something or ask something or share something, and I'll do. And
what I'll do is you asked about wonder at the start of the conversation, so I'll send you something around wonder, which I thought was a very useful video. Just spark off some research, and if you're interested, you might want to have that and cultivate even more wonder in your life and your.
Of course, yes. Please do.
Great.
So I wish you a nice evening, Joshua, and maybe I'll do something with our video. No? But if
have a play around with it and see if it seems suitable. I don't mind.
Okay.
I just enjoy talking. I've got a quick question. What's that picture behind you? My eye keeps being drawn to it. It's the black picture with a glow.
Yes, this picture, which is pretty dark, with the glow. Yes.
Yeah.
This is a picture from this is Doris picture. Yes, but a friend of ours has painted it. And this is actually very, very nice. I can show it maybe nearer. Yeah. If you
yes, please.
This is,
I love it.
This is a very special one, actually. Let's see how it looks.
Ooh.
This is.
You can't see that detail from afar.
Can you see?
I can now. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. This is a doorway, a door to a special house in Hanover, and well, it always looks different depending upon the light which is shed upon the picture. Yeah,
it's fantastic, and I love the puddle at the bottom. That's amazing light effect there.
Yes.
I'm glad you showed me that. I'm glad I asked, because that is a brilliant painting. Positive feedback to your friend who painted it.
Thank you. I'll do. Okay. Right.
Well, have a lovely evening.
Yeah. You too, Joshua. And then see you next time.
A pleasure to reconnect. Bye, Janice.
Thank you. Bye, Joshua.
Bye.